Phew, filthy, absolutely filthy, dirty, and also covered in dust. This is a video on how to clean your anime figures
for super cheap.
You can turn this
into this. I'll show you how.
So, I have seen many ways on how to clean your anime figures, but I always find that they go a little bit overboard. All you need to do to clean anime figures is get the right equipment, and the best equipment, well, the best equipment is these makeup brushes. Lads, if you don't know what a makeup brush is, ask your girlfriend or mother. And yeah, these things are super cheap. I got all of these for £1 on Amazon. So that's right, you don't need to be embarrassed by going into a shop and buying makeup brushes for your lewd anime figures. So how do we clean them? The easiest way is to start with a big enough brush, and the reason I use these big brushes is this can get the majority of them off. So if you got a pack like I did, you would get some big brushes, some very big brushes, some thick brushes, along with some very small minute brushes. So realistically, you want to be cleaning figures once every other week. So what I tend to do is I tend to go by shelf. I tend to go and do one shelf 1 week, the next shelf another week, and I kind of rotate them over a 6 to 7, 8 week period. That way the figures don't get overly dusty. If you are finding that they're getting more and more dusty and really dusty, dusty area, tend to do it maybe 2 shelves a week, just to keep on top of it. But to be honest, I've never really been in a position where I felt, oh yeah, this is really nasty, except for some figures that I've purposely not cleaned so I can do this video. So here we have the lovely Sadie-chan from One Piece Portrait of Pirates, and she's looking rather dusty. Now, first thing, we're going to get our big duster, and we're going to start at the top, and we're just going to go into downward motions to try and get as much off here as we can. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is a particular figure that doesn't really get too dusty. She's dusty, but she's not overly dusty. But yeah, you will find some characters with black hair, for example Luffy or Brook, they will get even more dusty. So for this point, you just want to kind of do big sweeps, just clean the majority of the surface area off. You will find that there will be some areas that you will need to go into a little bit more detail with. For example, her butt crack. Like for example, her hair. So let's try and do her hair, shall we? So her hair is quite complex, and you will find with a lot of scale figures that it will be a little bit more complex. Now what I will do, use this big brush and just get into all of the little corners, every single area with this big brush. Because it's quite got that bit of surface area, it's very easy to just do all of it. And as you can see, you can probably see on the video itself, there is a lot of dust flying off. I can't get into some of these curls. Some of these curls are a little bit more annoying, but at least with this one, these makeup brushes, the thicker ones, you can actually just push against it, and then you'll get into all of those, a lot more of those nooks and crannies that you couldn't otherwise. And then we'll do her cape afterwards, which you can't see on here, and yeah. Oh, she's looking so much better than she did before. Let's just quickly go over here and try and get into this little side bits. Now, what you want to do, if you can get them, try not to get them with these little metal tips, because if you are being a little bit too rough, you can scrape using this metal bit. Annoying. I am just being extra careful. I've done this so many times. Oh, can you see all of the dust flying off there in the nooks and crannies once you're getting into them? So just go over everything that you can kind of feel like you can see on the figure, everything that you can kind of do, and then yeah, looking so much nicer than she was before. Let's get into the next bit. So the next bit, you want to take one of the smaller brushes and just go over every little detail. Now, because we've already gotten the bigger brushes, it's not going to be so bad. Most of the dust has actually came off with this. So yeah, you're not going to need to do too much. Now, I can see behind her hair that it's going to be a little bit more difficult. So, how do we get into that? So, the next thing you do is, well, you disassemble them if you can. I mean, some figures you don't have to disassemble, but others you are going to have to. So, for example, in this one, you can take her head off and her hair, and you can really get into some of those nooks and crannies that you can't always get into. I'll just try and do lightly, as light as you can. I think it's a lot more awkward with these thinner ones than it is the bigger ones, but yeah. Also, don't forget to go down to the bottom. We will do the base separately. So as you can see all of that on there. Get as much of this on. So the base, I've seen people to say, oh, just do the base with a feather duster and stuff like that. Nah, at the end of the day, most of these figures, you can take them off the base, and yeah, look how nasty that base looks. So what I would do with this is get a duster or anything kind of like that and just go off the base. Disassemble them. Disassemble your figures before you're going to clean them. It makes things so much easier. Just a little side note as well. Do not be afraid of wetting one of the smaller brushes and just going over some of the smaller details. Water in general, I would not recommend just spraying water all over your figure, but if you've got, for example, Brooks Afro here, and you just put a little tiny bit onto the brush, you can really get into some of the very more harder parts to clean up. It's a huge time saver, and you know what? A little bit of water on a figure, little tiny amounts that's on this tiny brush, will make the figure look a huge amount newer. And there we go, looking absolutely fantastic and clean and just overall really nice. It does make a huge difference if you do take that time and effort to clean your figures and give them that lustre on life once again. Just like I said, you only need to do it for 5-10 minutes every week. Clean as much as you can and you will just benefit from figures looking overall nice. And like I said, that cost about £1. These things are just absolute fantastic. Go buy them.